periods in my life where I completely struggle to focus on anything meaningful or difficult. And I really do think a lot has to do with it, with how I consume social media. Well, how we all consume social media, because we all have these days, don't we? We all have days where we just cannot focus, we cannot think straight, we don't want to do absolutely anything for no reason at all. And I do think social media and just consuming this endless river of brain rot can seriously have an impact on us. In these moments of limbo, and when I'm in this rut, whatever you want to call it, I tend to find myself just glued to the screen of my phone or my computer, just constantly scrolling, watching random stuff that's not very meaningful or really just does anything for me, but I do it anyway. I suppose it's all to do with the whole trying to find the next best thing, something funny, something emotionally invoking for that next little bit of hit of dopamine. And so we just keep on looking, but it never really comes. And when it does, it is so short-lived. We are immediately back at square one. We're just gonna sit there, waiting, refreshing, looking. We're not even sure what we're looking for, but we're looking anyway. We're trying to find something. And unfortunately, by doing so, we're just adding fuel to the fire because we're just consuming more and more and more. And it either just makes us feel more down or worse than we currently are, or even less satisfied because we still cannot find anything to, make us feel happier, lift us up slightly. We just can't. Because I really do think that the things we're searching for aren't there. They aren't there on the screen. They're outside, they're out around us. They're up here. They're within other people. They aren't on your screen. Obviously, if we're not careful with what we consume and how we consume it, it can seriously mess with our heads. It can seriously alter our perception of certain things. And it can actually cause some serious damage if we're not monitoring it. I suppose it is quite circumstantial because some people genuinely just do not get much time on their phone, at all, because they just have such a busy day and they only really get to go on it at the end of the day towards the end, right before going to bed, just watching a little bit of TikTok or whatever. Personally, I think that's fine because it's just a bit and it's just like a little bit of downtime before going to sleep. But for those that are just exposed to it, all the time, I really do think that can have a very, very negative effect on you. And I think the biggest danger it poses is how much crap it fills your head with. So then you find it difficult to concentrate on anything or think about things clearly because everything is just clouded up here. Everything's jumbled up. Luckily for me, I tend to be quite alright at recognizing, and whenever I do recognize it and I feel myself going down that little spiral, I immediately force myself to do certain things. You might not do these things exactly the same. You might just apply the principles or some of the ideas, which is fine. The whole idea is that these will try and help you clear your mind a little bit. Just get rid of some of that fluff up in there and allow you to focus on the now and of what's important. So the first thing that I do, and this is kind of done before that, so this is kind of like in preparation for things like that, is that I follow certain types of content. And what do I mean by that? I follow all types of content. I like my gaming, I like my sports, I like my MMA, I love my gym, things like that. I love all that kind of stuff. So I follow it all. However, I also follow a lot of motivational content. Part of it because I enjoy it, and secondly, because I do it on purpose. Because the reason why I follow all that stuff, it helps me as I'm scrolling. Because if I'm sitting there scrolling and I see a familiar face that's motivational that I look up to, it immediately triggers my brain to think, right, what are you doing? And more often than not, whatever it is that I end up watching, I kind of just shut it off halfway through because that's kind of like my trigger. Is as soon as you see some sort of motivational content pop in your timeline, then that's it, you finish scrolling. I think here the whole idea of motivational content really does motivate me to shut things off and then just get to work. And I know this won't apply to everybody, which is fine. Maybe there is something else that will apply to you. Maybe you just can follow more content that will remind you of something, which I suppose you can tie in with the previous point, saying having your own thing that kind of like triggers you to do something of your own. Because if you're an artist, you might watch art content and think that looks awesome. I want to try that technique. I want to paint something like that myself, just in my style. Whatever it may be, adapting other people's creations using your own ideas and your own styles is also a form of expression, and it's something that can help you stay away from just scrolling on your phone constantly. Because if you see an idea you want to create, well, guess what? You have to get off your phone to go and make it. So it forces you away from the screen. screen. The next example is do something. And I mean anything that requires you to just get up off your chair, sofa, whatever, and just go and get moving. Use your body and your brain. And this doesn't have to be, anything complex either, by the way. I'm talking about something like maybe you just sat on your bed, scrolling through your phone, you just get up and hoover the house. It sounds daft. I know it does, but number one, it gets you away from the screen. You can't do both of those things at once. And also, it gets your body moving, and that is insanely important when it comes to clearing your mind. Doing something with your body that has to focus on something other than thousands of pieces of information that are constantly thrown into your face, and just focusing on the right now. It's important. This could be absolutely anything. Go for a walk, make a meal, hoover up, go brush your teeth. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it involves you getting up, putting your phone away, and just getting it done. That's the whole idea. Make it as simple or as complex as you like. It doesn't matter. The whole idea is that it's going to keep your body and mind busy in the moment. And even if that's just a temporary thing, that's fine, because the idea is if you can break away from it for a little bit consistently, that is still a way of monitoring it as well as moderating it, because I think that's very key here, moderating the amount of time you spend consuming certain type of content. Last but not least, but I think one of the most important ones for me personally anyway, is training your body. Getting yourself to the gym, going for a swim, going for a walk, going for a bike ride, going climbing, whatever it may be, just training your body. Whenever I need to clear my head, when I'm having a bad day, whenever my mind is all foggy and jumbled up, even a simple quick 20-minute, 30-minute workout can seriously do the trick. I genuinely do believe that physical exercise does absolute wonders for mental clarity. Pretty much everybody I know that goes to the gym, everybody that I'm friends with or associate myself with that are into fitness will always say the same things. How the gym just helps them declutter their brain, defog their emotions, help with their judgment. It just helps them think. It really, really does. And obviously it's also a very good way to let off some steam. So if you have a stressful job or somebody's pissed you off, what a better way than to let it off by just having a bit of exercise and using it as some fuel. There are days where I don't want to do any of these things. And there are also days where I don't do them at all. I'm not going to pretend like I'm perfect and I do them every time. There are times where I'll whip out my phone. There are times where I skip the gym. There are times where I don't go outside even though when I should. However, whenever I can, I try my best to force myself to do it. I know sometimes you don't want to, but then every time I always remember and I remind myself of the previous times when I felt like hell and I just didn't want to do anything. Or when I did do it and how much better I felt straight after. It genuinely does feel like exercise can actually solve a large chunk of your problems, because a lot of those problems are probably up here. Me personally, I can vouch for something like that. The only thing I've found so far is the gym can't cure my migraines. Unfortunately, I just have to wait those out. But if it did, I'd be at the gym even more than I already am. But for you, it might be a little bit different. You might just need to sit there, pick up a book and read for a bit. You might just meditate or do some breathing exercises. You might just go talk to your mum. It doesn't matter what it is. The whole point is that you do something to stay away from the screen and to allow yourself to think in the now, because all of that content will only cloud your judgment and it'll just blur everything in your mind because there's so much of it. And it's obviously no wonder that we are so quick to pick up our phones and have a look and have a scroll through. That is normal. We all do it. I do it. But we need to be conscious whenever we can to try and reduce that, because the less time we spend on our phone, the more time we spend living. And after all, when we're older, we're going to remember the things we did, not saw on our phone.